Good afternoon. Well, the other day I cut a log down into some blanks and sealed the ends and stuff. It was a green log. So today I'm going to try to start roughing out some bowls out of it, and I believe I'm going to use this blank. I had it at the end of my last video, but the thing is the bark is loose on most of that tree. I'm going to try to get a natural edge bowl out of my next video, and that'll be out of this piece. The bark's on there a little bit better, but it's still kind of loose. Maybe it'll work. I don't know. But anyway, we're gonna start cutting us a bowl today, and we're gonna get this thing roughed out. Like I say, it's green. I'm gonna be treating it so to keep it from cracking. Hopefully, maybe it'll work. Maybe I won't have any complications with it. So we're going to get started on it right now, and I'll show you how I do these things. Okay, now then, for starters, I want to get this thing sort of rounded, and a couple of different things I can do here. I can draw me a circle here on the face, and just take it out of the chainsaw, whack the corners off, and be good to go. Or I can put it, say, on a bandsaw like this with one of these little deals. I find what size I want. Let's see, that's 10-inch. That's 9. Probably 10. I could actually get a bigger bowl out of that, but this is 11 3/8. Okay, well. Basically whatever size bowl you want to get. I made these little things. Several people on the internet have made them. I think I saw this on Captain Eddie's YouTube channel. But anyway, you just take a nail, you get this thing centered up on here, you put a nail down through there, and you run your bandsaw right around the edge of it. I believe I'm going to do this one with a chainsaw today. It's kind of thick, and one of the problems that I have is when you do this on your bandsaw, you end up with and you're cutting this bark. This bark has dirt and stuff all ingrained in it, so you end up just messing up your blades. I very rarely do any on the bandsaw anymore, just because I keep destroying my blades, and once they get dull, they start cutting weird and all of that stuff. So I'm gonna rough this out on a chainsaw and get it sorted down to a circle. And so the way I'm gonna do that is I'm gonna take one of these blanks, and I believe that's actually too big. I'll try this 10-inch. 10-inch will work just fine. So I'll take my Sharpie pen, and I'll just kind of draw a circle around through here, something I can cut with my chainsaw. Did I say Sharpie? I meant permanent marker. Anyway, I get me a circle there that I can see, and I'll just take a little finishing nail and I'll just mark the center right here. Okay, that's right down there behind that ridge just a little bit. Let me mark that. There's my center. And just mark it with my permanent marker. So this is what we're looking at. If you can see it, we're gonna start out roughly with a 10-inch blank. We've marked the center, and now we're gonna get out there to the chainsaw. I get to run my little friend again and get this thing cut out. Alright, well, I got my log up on my support. It's good and steady. Hopefully it won't try to go anywhere. This can get a little scary let me get my little friend fired up here, and we'll... All I'm going to do is cut right around that circle. Okay, well, here we are. Fairly circular. Pretty good. See how easy that bark is, it just comes off. There's no way I can get a natural bowl out of this. Anyway, we'll get back in, we'll get started on the bowl itself. Alright, well, got my destruction tool of choice. It's a 2-inch chisel that I have, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try to take some of the bark and all right here out of the middle, so I can get a good center mark. And you want this to be kind of flat, as flat as you can get it anyway, to get started. Alright, now, the way I'm going to do this project is with a wormwood screw. It's going to be a 10-inch bowl. I'm very comfortable turning this with a wormwood screw. I have face plates and all that I can use for bigger stuff, but a 10-inch bowl, I believe a wormwood screw will be just fine. So now, I'm going to line my little plate back up and get me another center mark. There we go. Right there. I can see it. Now, I'm just going to drill that hole right there. Right there. Now that was about maybe 1 1/8 inches. Now the way this works, these wormwood screws, the one that came with my chuck is right here. Now I just get a drill bit that's smaller than the threads, but about the same size as the shaft. It tells in your instructions what size, but I really don't know myself. And that'll just screw in there just like that. This mounts in your chuck, and that just screws in. And then we'll get this thing going here. All right. Well, got to see a blunder. This is going to be a regular bowl, and I put my wormwood screw in on the wrong side. So let's talk about that just a second. I got a little backwards in my head on it. Wherever you put your wormwood screw, that's actually going to be the top part of your bowl, the inside, the part that you're going to hollow out. So that means the other end will be your tenon to hold it. So if I had made this my wormwood screw, I would be putting my tenon here, which means I would be hollowing this out. Well, that would leave me kind of a natural edge bowl, and I've already decided that this blank is not good for that. So I've gone back and put another hole for a wormwood screw on the other side. I'm hoping that this hole won't actually end up interfering, which I'm sure it probably will. The bowl may end up being just a little bit more shallow. But the purpose mainly of this video is to show what I do with my bowls to help keep them from cracking. So I'm going to keep going with this blank, and we are going to go ahead and put this on the wormwood screw. and we're going to get this thing started. Alright, now we've decided that this side is the one I need for my wormwood screw, because what I'm going to do is put my tenon here and shape the bowl from this side. So we'll get this thing up here on the wormwood screw. One problem with a wormwood screw is when you go to when you drill your holes, if you don't drill your holes perfectly square, which you know, these bowls get really big really quick if you're not careful, you end up with a hole that's out of square, and it won't mount square on your lathe. But like I say, most of the bowls that I do with a wormwood screw are all, you know, smaller bowls, 10-inch, you know, or smaller. Get good and tight on there. Cut my finger somehow. Alright, we are good and tight. Now, we'll see if my tailstock actually hits that center right there. I doubt it will, but maybe. No, it's going to be off a little bit, but it's okay. We'll get it in there. Now, my lathe is set at its absolute slowest speed. On this lathe is about 600 RPM, which is very fast, and most of the time when I put a bowl on here, this thing just trying to break dance all over the shop. But that's the best I can do, because my lathe is it's, like I say, at slowest speed, 600. I can, when I have bigger bowls, I can turn my headstock and allow it to rotate in line with the lathe, and that tends to stabilize everything a little better too. So that's something you can think about. That stuff is just soaking wet. Alright, so let's get started. I know you're tired of hearing me talk, so we're going to try to get started here. I got me a new tool rest I'm going to be trying out, and let's just check and see and make sure everything's going to be okay. Alright, everything's locked down good and tight. Tailstock's up, locked down. And if you're not wearing a face shield, at least when you rough bowls, then you're behind the game. But here we go. I'm going to start out with my 5/8 bowl gouge, just to try to auger out a lot of this material right off the bat and start getting a good shape. And this may get some pull cut. Start getting myself somewhat oriented. Just to kind of begin getting the shape. Move the tool rest on in a little bit. Alright. Right now I'm still just trying to get through all the bark. All I'm trying to do right now is just get it balanced down. And I'm standing well out of the line of fire. The line of fire is over here to my left side. You don't want to get hit in the face with it. The corners that were cut with a chainsaw, the corners that I cut off with a chainsaw, you can feel every one of them in the tool. It's just but it's coming along. We just have to keep working on it. Just trying to get her good, get her balanced out, and then I'll really start shaping. I've got bark flying all over this shop right now. Okay, we're starting to get a little better balance now. I'm just going to go back and double check, make sure everything's still good and tight. Because with all the vibration and stuff like that, it's you have a tendency to start loosening stuff up. See how this bark's just flying off? It's coming off in big chunks. Just be safe with it, and don't don't get too ahead of yourself. Don't get aggressive. Just cut it out and get her even. Okay, I'm getting close to the point where I want to start sizing my tenon. I'm not going to worry about this area right here right now. I'm going to cut that off in a few minutes. But anyway, what's going to happen with this is you can already see how this wood's trying to dry out. And as it dries out, it's going to shrink across the grain this way. And it will be very significant. As it does that, if you're not careful, you'll start developing checks and cracks. If that's what you want, then that's great. Use it. But, if you don't want cracks in it, then one thing you can do too, if it takes a while to get this done, you can squirt it with some water out of a spray bottle or whatever. But I'm going to continue on turning this down and knock out these bark areas and stuff like that. But just remember that these things don't really shrink with the grain running this way. They shrink across the grain this way. And it can be a lot of shrinkage. But I'm going to start working on my tenon now and try to get that turned down so I can get it reverse mounted and all that. So I'm just going to continue on roughing as I go, and then I'm going to try to form that tenon. I switched over to my 3/8 gouge. Maybe I still need the heavier one. Okay, I'm going to start forming it. I'm going to start forming my tenon here. Got to make sure I get past that hole. Okay, I'm still really big. Okay, what I'm looking for, the grip on my chuck is the small grip. As you close it in, will go down to 1.5 inches. At the end, when I final turn this thing, what I'm looking for is to have that about 1 7/8 inches, slightly larger than its lowest capacity. So this thing is gonna shrink across the grain this way. So I have to allow for that. That way I end up with a tenon that's at least 1.5 inches. And hopefully 1 7/8 inches. So what I do is I start out and I'll make my tenon about 2 2¼ inches. That'll get me good enough to rough out, to reverse chuck and rough out the inside of the bowl, and then as it shrinks I can come back and true up the tenon, and I've still got a good tenon. So anyway, I'm gonna work on the tenon until I get it at about 2 1/4, and I'll be back when I get that done. Okay, I just cut that little piece off the bottom right there. Now I'm just going to true up my tenon, get it squared up good, get me a good shoulder there, so I get a really good positive lock in it. Here we go. Okay, well, got my tenon cut, got everything trued up. I got the bowl basically the right shape that I want. It's nice even curve. You can see some little bit of tear out and stuff here and there, not much, but a little bit, some tool marks and stuff. We're just roughing this thing out. I'm not worried about that stuff at all. So I'm fixing to take it off the screw chuck, and I'll get it remounted back around. And I also redid the center hole right here, and it looks like I'm going to be alright, because by the time I cut my tenon off, that hole will be gone. But I had to re-true it up because it was a little bit off, and it's trued back up now, so it's good and in line. I made another pass over the bowl, to make sure it was true. But it's gonna, as of right now, it's already starting to shrink a little bit across the grain. So anyway, we're gonna get this thing spun around, and I'll be back when I get that done. We'll start hogging this thing out. Okay, well, got it remounted. I'm gonna try to leave my tailstock up as long as I can, but first of all, I'm gonna try to true this up. Now, one thing to remember is you want to check your diameter, and I'm right at 10 inches on this bowl. So, in order for this to dry up good, hopefully without cracking, I'm gonna go about 10% of that and leave the wall thickness about that size. So a 10-inch bowl, I'll have a wall thickness here of about 1 inch. Okay, and so here we go. If I got past the saw mark, not quite, almost. Okay. The full cut. Okay, now I'm going to mark this about 1 inch. I'm going to mark it about 1 inch, and I'm sure it doesn't have to be exact. I had heard 10% several times, so that's what I used. Make sure you save all these shavings because you're going to need them to pack it in. I don't have much trouble with that. I got a whole floor full of them. Make sure you get your tailstock all the way out of the way because if you don't, then you end up banging into it. You stick that thing through your elbow. Be back when I get this all hogged out. Okay, I've got her down now. She's about 1 inch thick all the way down. So now I'm going to get ready to boil this thing. And I'll show you how I use my rocket stove to do that. It's actually what I designed that thing for. Or what I have it for. I didn't design it by no means. I found that on YouTube also. But we're going to get this thing out of here. What happens when you boil these things is they will tend to discolor. Okay, a white bowl may end up looking dark gray or even black when you boil it. But don't worry, it's only, I mean, you can just about get it off with sandpaper. It's so thin. The color is still there. So when you see that, don't get too worried. But what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to write down a walnut, and I'm going to put the date of January the 9th, 14. That way, because I usually have a lot of these blanks and I'll lose track of what time, of what dates I did these things and all that. But here we go. That's roughed out. What I could do now is I could set it in a bag. I use these little bags that you get at the grocery store or Walmart or whatever. I'll use them. I'll fill it with shavings, and I'll put my bowl in there, and then I'll just cover it with shavings on top of that, and that works great. To dry these things, but it takes a while. That's why I like to boil them, because boiling them can actually reduce the time almost in half to drying. Plus, by boiling them, it takes away a lot of the stress inside the wood, so it don't have as much a tendency to want to crack. So I've got a bowl that doesn't want to crack as bad, and it's going to dry almost twice as fast. This will not work with your natural edge bowls though, because it'll discolor the bark, and if the bark gets discolored, you can't really do anything about that. So, but anyway, here we go. I'm going to go get the rocket stove set up and get my bucket ready to go, and we'll get this thing going. Okay. Well, I've got a 5-gallon bucket here. I don't recommend using plastic for this, but anyway, there's enough water in there for this one bowl. But now I have put several bowls in these things before. Mainly, you just want the bowl to be submerged. If it's floating like that, take something and put on top of it to help hold it down. If I can find something. Okay, got the bowl in there. I'm heating the water up. It'll take a little while to get it heated up, but once it gets heated up and it starts boiling, for about 1 hour, because it's 1 inch and a 1 inch thick wall thickness. And when it gets done, I'll just take this thing off and set it down. Let the water cool. I'll take the bowl out and I'll put it in the shavings in the little bag. Okay, we got her boiling. I'll give her about 1 hour, and we'll have this bowl finished. Get ready to put it up for a couple months. So I'm just going to sit here and wait. Little fire going in. Big fire coming out. Oh yeah, that thing's really rolling. Listen to that water. Can't see in there no more. I don't think. Nope, can't see in there. Alright, well, it's been about an hour. I'm going to take this down and just set it down and let that water cool off a little bit. And just let the bowl cool inside it. And then we'll be back when I get done in about an hour or so after it cools down some. Alright. Well, okay. Got my bowl done. I've just got it out of the out of the water. You can see it's starting to dry, but you can see the discoloration in it. See how it turned kind of a grayish color? That's nothing to worry about, because when you come back and you do your finishing cuts and your final turning on this thing, that'll all be gone. It'll be right back to the colors that it was. But really what we've done is we've relaxed all these fibers by boiling it. And it'll really stand much less chance of cracking now that it's actually been boiled. But like I say, this doesn't work with natural edge bowls, just simply because natural edge bowls have bark on them, and you don't want that discoloration on the bark. But you can see that, but you can still read what type it is and the date and all that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take this bag, this Walmart bag. I think it's a Walmart bag, maybe, yeah. And I'm going to start putting shavings in it off my lathe from that bowl. I'm just going to fill it up about, 25% of the way. I got some shavings in there. I'm just going to put the bowl in it, and then I'll finish covering that bowl up with shavings. Well, that's the way I like doing regular bowls that doesn't have the bark and all on it and stuff, because when you go back and final turn it, you have to take that discoloration off. It's only just barely through the surface. You can just about sand it off, but you can't do that with something as rough as bark. So anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed the video. This is pretty much the way I do all of my bowls. And I'll put as many bowls in that bucket as I can get and get submerged. So you don't have to do them one at a time. I've had 3 or 4 in there at once. It's just a 5-gallon bucket's the biggest bucket that I've got. But you all have a good day. And I'm going to finish packing this thing away, and I'll check it again in a couple months. Well, actually, probably every couple of weeks I'll recheck it, and just see how dry it is. But it'll dry about almost in half the time that a bowl will that's just been put in a bag with shavings. So anyway, hope you enjoyed it. Y'all have a good day.